former congressman, 7th District, about to go back to the Republicans. See ya, Abby. Dave Brat with us. Dave, great to have you.
Hey, John, thanks for having me.
You know what? If they spend as much money, outside money, on your reelection that they're spending as Nick's, you'd still be in Congress, even though you're probably better off.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, you just got outspent by you can get any outside money. One thing about the Frida's campaign, they're getting tons of outside money is coming into that, Club for Growth and others. Dave, I got to get to the China situation. I guess the dissident scientist Yan, she was on Tucker the other day. She's on my show on Friday, but now she's censored on Twitter and they banned her on Facebook. Her allegations were stunning, Dave.
Yeah, well, and it's not only a dissident, but she's the highest level PhD researcher in the technical lab in China, in Hong Kong, on virology. So you can see why they want to block her, because her testimony is just devastating. And she says that it's a virus is a gun with a missile attached to it. And she's got a technical paper that came out that shows there's 3 innovations that prove it's human engineered, and that, from the wild, from the bat soup story. And then she goes on, she's coming up with a second technical paper showing how China sent it to us. And so all of the recent unpleasantness, right? The reason you don't get to go out to eat at a restaurant, you can't go to church, you can't go to sports, 40 million Americans lost jobs, is due to one thing, and it's due to the CCP, the Communist Party China virus. They sent us. And all this Trump debate is just meaningless. If we sort that one out and they sent it to us, and then on the other side of the ticket, you got Beijing Biden, now called the Harris ticket, et cetera. People, I hope you can make up your minds, right? It's just clear when it comes from Wuhan, China in the first place, you got a problem. But now you got the highest level researcher in the Chinese lab system telling you it came from them, and it's been engineered to do more harm, not less harm.
More harm
than the old COVID stuff. And so it's devastating. And of course, the mainstream media, that would decide the election tomorrow, right? If folks know that and know the mainstream media covered it up, and every Democrat politician has covered it up, and Spanberger won't mention it, she's CIA, she's supposed to know stuff about all this covert activity. She's not saying anything, for good reason.
Dave, have you been shocked with the silence of Spanberger on everything? Everything.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, it's her strategy. I mean, you just don't say anything, and they're just hoping the Trump issue, right? The Trump triggers people, and they're hoping that number is big enough. But I don't think so. When you got the Trump coattails in a presidential election coming in, and Trump is now just articulating the clear difference between the parties, and China is first and foremost, but then on business. And bringing a recovery back. When the Democrats talk about, encouraging economics, what they mean is they don't mean encouraging capital investment in the financial markets. They mean investing in more government spending.
Right.
And seriously, that's what they mean. And so Trump is putting out that contrast, and I think he's going to be a surprising win, not just by a hair like last time.
So you think that, because all the polls we're looking at right now, Dave, are very encouraging, and we're playing offense. There's a lot of spring in everybody's step. I mean, as you know, in the position I'm in, I get to see a lot of the internal stuff. I mean, we've pulled ahead in Florida. We pulled ahead in North Carolina. We pulled ahead in Ohio. We're going to win. We're tied in Minnesota. We're tied in Wisconsin. I mean, we're within 3 in Pennsylvania, but trending up. Everything is trending up for the Trump campaign, and then you look at the other side, and they have no ground game. So, they're spending an inordinate amount of money on TV, and so that's scary to people because they see, Biden's ads. They don't see the same number of Trump ads. But, Dave, the ground game is incredible. I mean, just in Virginia alone, we've got over 5,000 trained volunteers. We're going to probably have 7,000 if we get the numbers we want by November 3rd. We've knocked on 500,000 doors. Think about that. We've knocked on 500,000 doors in Virginia. They've knocked on 0. We've got 2 million voter contacts. They have voter contacts, but not to the same degree that the Trump campaign have. Is that going to make a difference?
Yeah, well, I think so. That when you get to talk to the people straight, it's very hard to overcome the mainstream media who won't let any information flow. But yeah, I'm encouraged, and for the silent majority, you just got to up and down Monument Avenue. If you don't put a certain sign in your window, your house gets torched, right? And so where's Spanberger speaking out on this? I spoke out on the Charlottesville incident. The mainstream press, the Richmond Times-Dispatch, do all their normal liberal. Now we see, just authoritarian tactics, and make you as a Republican speak out. I condemned every extremist there was. Where's Spanberger? Two cops were just shot in the face in L.A. by Black Lives Matter. Where is Spanberger? Right? There were the number of people in Charlottesville is dwarfed by the violence in the streets across the whole country. And Spanberger and all the Democrats aren't being called on the carpet to answer. Where are you? Where's your statement of condemnation against terrorists? And she studied the CIA, supposedly. She studied this stuff. I don't know what she did there. And people need to ask, what did you do there? Why aren't you speaking out on basic human rights claims? If you're a liberal, where are the liberals speaking out for people being shot in the face? It's just stunning. There's no pressure on them. The mainstream, no media asks them any questions. They don't have to respond. And there's violence going on across every Democrat-run city in the nation. And it's just stunning to me. And so the people out there, you got to ask yourself the question, where is the trigger point? Okay, so Trump triggers you. Okay, so that's a given. So we can differ on all that stuff. But where does the point come when you lose your job and you lose your family and you lose all the activities you want to pursue, and you lose a free country, and you lose the First Amendment, and you lose the Second? Where is it? Where's the point where you're going to get over your Trump trigger syndrome and vote for America? Right? And vote for all the things that made us great. It's just madness right now. The folks need to wake up.
Boy, Dave, you absolutely nailed it. And now you got the Biden campaign talking about this debate in 2 weeks. But the fake news media is something else. Like I watched the town hall meeting with Stephanopoulos. I stayed up. I took a nap during the day so I could stay up and be fresh and watch it. I personally thought Trump did phenomenal. I thought it was one of his best performances ever. I thought he battered around George Stephanopoulos like a cat with a half-dead mouse. And at the end of the second half of the show, Stephanopoulos folded his tent and basically became the timekeeper to put the ads on TV. I mean, that was his job. He didn't do anything else. Then you read the reports the next day, and every single media outlet of the fake news blasted it, saying he was horrible and he was off script and the Republicans are upset and they're going to lose the Senate. And I'm like, did we watch the same hour and a half? I mean, the reporting is such lies and blatant nonsense. So if you didn't see it, you think he had a horrible performance. I thought he was phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just remember back, I met Stephanopoulos a couple of times. It's just kind of in this woke culture, right? He's one of the guys that covered up for Clinton's, all of his indiscretions in the Oval Office on all the sexual matters over an intern. And anyone else does that, you're fired, and Stephanopoulos should be fired and on the sidelines, but instead he's the head of a major news network and the leading voice covering the White House these days. And so there's just two different sets of rules where the left never gets penalized when they cross the line, and the conservatives forget to dot an I or cross a T, and you go to jail. And it's just stunning. We're losing the country. We're losing the fact that we're a nation of laws. Everyone's equal in this country, and we're losing it.
We're with Dave Brat. He is the chair, the dean of the business school at Liberty University, former Congressman, 7th District in Virginia, 2 terms there. Dave, let's talk a little bit about the Biden economic plan, which is Build Back Better. The only thing that I've seen from the plan is that he says he's going to raise taxes by an alarming amount. Had a guy on earlier, but I just want to get, from an economist, we're trying to get the economy back going post-pandemic. If you were to raise taxes now to the extent that Biden has proposed, can you explain in layman's terms, not in economic PhD language, layman's terms, what would happen?
Yeah, it's just very simple. If you raise the price of anything, right? gallon of milk's a few bucks. If you raise it to $400 for a gallon of the milk, are you going to go buy milk? And the answer is no. So if you raise the price of doing business and investing in capital equipment to build cars, if you raise that price through the roof, you're going to do less of it. And that's what a tax does. A tax makes it more expensive to do everything. And that's what I was saying. The clearest indication is they're saying they're going to invest in America and manufacturing and all this stuff he's saying. I'm Pennsylvania Joe. He's not Pennsylvania Joe. He was the chief facilitator for China and for all the international business and the globalization that took place over the last 40 years. And so the first biggest thing you see in his economic plan is the shift to everything to the green environment. Investment, he calls it. Investment. If it was an investment, the free market would choose it if it was good, but it's not good. And so he wants all of his cronies up there and all the lawyers and all the special interests to get another new entire sector of the economy. So they've already socialized healthcare, and that's a disaster, and they want more socialization of it. Now they want to socialize energy and have a green sector and invest in that so their friends get all that money. So they're just it's like I taught economic development, right, for 20 years. Mm-hmm. Just look at Latin America. That's what you do. You sell off sectors to your cousins and your uncles and your friends and your cronies. That's called crony capitalism. Mm-hmm. It fails. It leads to a Marxist revolution. And you tank. And I just want to say on the ethical front too, for the moderates out there that are on the knife edge trying to make their decision, and all these are just my personal remarks, right? I'm not affiliated with anybody making these remarks. But on the ethics, if Trump is able to turn over the CCP and liberate 1.4 billion human beings in China who are innocent of their madness, and liberate them and offer them freedom to pursue their lives, that is the greatest ethical achievement that the world has ever seen in terms of total numbers, right? The freedom for 1.4 billion people made in the image of God to finally be able to live their life instead of being coerced and forced to work 7-day weeks, 12-hour days with social credit scores, managing every aspect of their life. They have no freedom, and the totalitarian regime just knows no ends for how to torture those folks. And so if you're on the knife edge looking at what's really best for the world, look at human beings and look at, even if you don't like a personality or the trigger stuff, look at what could possibly happen for 1.4 billion people on this planet being given a new lease on life. And I hope you really consider that.
How does that happen? How do we, the CCP is very well entrenched. Their military is growing by the hour. A lot of people say that right now a lot of the moves they're making with their military is offensive-minded, not defensive-minded. So, yeah, you got the Steve Bannons out there and me and you and Curtis Ellis banging on the CCP, but how do you really affect change? They're not going to implode from within. There's not going to be an eternal Tiananmen Square revolution. So how do you topple them?
Right. Well, it's just one answer. Xi Jinping and the former heads of the CCP told Bush way back when, I got to feed my middle class. Well, right now, because of the coronavirus they unleashed, they're going to have a hard time feeding their middle class. And if you don't feed that growing middle class in China, you're gone. Mm-hmm. And so you've got that, and then you've got the U.S. can put pressure on the financial markets. Right now, those firms in China don't even have to be audited to be traded on our exchanges. If we do that simple move and tell them, you start letting up on your folks, you liberalize your politics, or we're going to take you out of our financial markets, and they'll get the memo. Just do it. You do it. And then you tell them what you want from them. But they need us way more than we need them. And so the middle class is the issue, and they're cracking up right now, right? They were growing at 10%, then 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and now with the corona, negative probably. And they won't report anything, right? Back under Mao on the Cultural Revolution and the Great Leap Forward, 10 million people died of starvation because they intentionally ruined the farms, and you can go read about it. Mm-hmm. But while they were doing that, while millions of people were being starved to death by government communist policy, they said bumper crops. It's the best it's ever been, right? So people need to review their history, right? When millions are dying of starvation, Chinese global news pieces said bumper crops, which means best year, best harvest ever.
Right.
So if anyone believes anything the Chinese say, I mean, you got to get educated on history.
Tell you what, Dave, you're absolutely spot on. I've only got a minute, but I do have a question. I got a couple. I'm going to read one from, looks like Scott in Williamsburg. Says, ask Dave, how do we restore manufacturing in the U.S., middle-class employment? Does it make sense with cheap Chinese labor and essentially no safety and environment protection?
Yeah, no, well, great question, and I left that out of the answer, but that is already happening, right? All the great Harvard MBA geniuses, 20 years ago said, send all of your supply chain, 100% of your supply chain for pharmaceutical drugs and everything else under the sun to China because it's cheap labor. Well, that was a huge error. So now that's all coming back naturally. Free markets do work. And so what we have left of them, the big firms are all doing major recalculations. That'll take 5 or 10 years to pull all that capital back, but it is coming. And now our good friend in India, Modi, right? There's our new opportunity to have a true friendship with a Democrat regime. And together, there's a new alliance of freedom under Trump. It's ironic with America first, but it's producing the best and the most real international relationships you could have. So we got India and Australia and all sorts of countries in the Pacific Basin there are our buddies now. And it's coming. The change is coming. There's going to be tremendous pressure on China, and China already is moving internal, right? They're going to have to make a major transition. And I know I'm going over, but I'll go into more on that next time we talk.
And that'll be next week. Dave Brat, thanks for being with us, Dave. I really appreciate your time. Dave Brat, Dean of the Business School, Liberty University. Dave, great to have you with us. Say hi to your lovely
John
bride.
God bless everybody out there. I will. You too. Thanks.
Yeah, tell her I said hi. John Fredericks Radio Network.